Hello everybody and welcome to the another lecture of this HTML masterclass. Till this point we have learned the basic concept of Java HTML, and we have learned some intermediate concept of HTML and a few graphics and advanced concept of HTML. Okay, but at this moment we actually didn't learn how to deal with the user input portion. Okay, so till this point we can only show our data to the users via our web pages, but we are not able to actually create a feature that can accept the input from the users. Okay, so for the example, if what if you have an online platform and you want the online admission for your institute, or it may be some kind of other scenarios as well, but at any point if you want few user inputs, then till this point we didn't learn the tag in the HTML that can do that. Okay, but before moving towards the user input portion, first we will discuss a very important tag which is kind of related to the animation. Well, to create a particular animation you have two way. You can use CSS frameworks, okay, which is a very advanced tool, actually CSS keyframe tool, and by using keyframe technique or keyframe coding structure you can create a vast categories of animations. Okay, and this is all up to you if you want to use that, but that is a bit tricky. Okay, using CSS and using keyframe, we will discuss all that stuff in the coming lectures when we start CSS portion of the of this particular lecture of this particular class module. But currently if we are using HTML, then we have a particular tag which is known as a marquee tag, and that marquee tag can create animated, I mean just sliding or scrolling content on your screen. So you may have visited a particular website and that website may have shown you a particular notification that maybe was sliding from right towards the left section of the screen, or from the top towards the bottom section of the screen, or in any other direction. Okay, so to create such kind of notification content, or to create actually such kind of content, you can use marquee tag. Okay, so if you want to use marquee tag, you have to create it with the two major attributes, which is behavior attribute and the direction attribute. Okay, what this behavior and direction attribute do, actually we will discuss about that, but first let's just test our marquee tag and let me see how this affect our screen, or how the content written inside this particular marquee tag will be rendered on the screen. Okay, now so if you create a marquee tag and if you just ignore the behavior and direction attribute for now, and if you just write anything inside a marquee tag as a content, you will notice that it will render the content, and your content on the screen will be sliding from right direction towards the left direction, and this process will be executed infinitely until you don't close your website, or until you don't close your page. Okay, so this is by default structure, or this is by default behavior of your marquee tag. This is the use of the marquee tag to create the sliding content or scrolling content. Okay, now talking about its important attributes. So it is behavior and direction, and there is one more important attribute, which is a scroll amount. Okay, so as you use behavior and direction, you also can use the scroll amount feature, which is a very important attribute in the marquee to control the sliding speed or scrolling speed of this particular tag. Okay, so notice here I have written I am marquee inside the marquee tag, and this content is sliding at a fixed speed. I can change this by passing some number into the scroll amount attribute as a value. Okay, so if I pass 20, then you will notice that the speed is actually bit changing on the screen. Okay, so it is now higher than previously, uh, than the previous speed, and you can actually pass minimum as well, or it is up to you whatever content, whatever amount you want to pass to this particular marquee tag. Okay, so after this scroll amount feature, we have the direction feature. Okay, what it do actually, you can choose 4 direction. Notice here by default our content is moving from right towards left, which is known as left, and this value is by default used as the direction attribute value in the marquee tag if you don't provide anything. Okay, so I didn't give it anything, it was moving from right towards the left, and I gave it the left, still it is moving from right towards the left. I can use right instead of this left. Okay, so I can use right as a value, and if I use right, the direction will be opposite to its previous direction. That means if I use right, then the content will move towards the right. Okay, so on the left it is towards the left, for the right it is towards the right. If I use up, it will move towards the up, and if I move down, if I write down here, it will move towards down. That means from top to bottom. Okay, now after this direction portion, we have one last important attribute, which is behavior attribute for this marquee tag. And for the behavior attribute, you can actually use mainly 2 options. First one is a scroll, and it is by default. That means if you are using a scroll, then your content will appear on the one corner on the one end of the screen and will be disappeared from the another end. Okay, but it is by default the scroll behavior. If you don't pass anything inside the behavior, your browser is gonna pass a scroll as the marquee behavior, so it will react the scroll behavior by default. But you can also pass alternate. Okay, so if you use alternate, that means your content will move towards a direction in whatever direction you passed in the direction attribute, and then it will just, when it will reach at the extreme end position of the browser, it will be redirected to towards the opposite direction of its moving direction. Okay, so if it was moving from left to right, when it will reach towards the right extreme position, it will be redirected towards the left, and when it reaches towards the left extreme position, it will be again redirected to the right, and this process will goes continuously. Okay, so by using this particular tag, this marquee tag, you can create any sliding or scrolling content. You can pass normal content directly inside the marquee tag, or you can use a heading tag or any tag to pass any content. Like if you pass heading, the content style will be as the h1 style or whatever tag you used, but the behavior will be scrolling, and in the specific direction you have given the attributes value to the marquee tag. Okay, you can also use image, video, audio, anything you want, so I can use image as well. Okay, and if you use image, you will see the same feature. Okay, so still you can control the image width and height and size and all of the stuff if you want, but apart from that, if it is used inside the marquee tag, that means it will scroll on the screen. Okay, so it was all about the marquee tag. Now we can jump towards the user input section, and this is the main phase of our HTML masterclass lecture, and this is very important. And after this user input capability, we will discuss form, and then we will wrap this particular masterclass. Okay, so for the very first user input part, we have a select tag. We can use a particular select tag to create the options, to create the drop down on the screen, and by using that particular drop down, a user can choose one option from multiple available options. Okay, so now just let's see how those things work. Now talking about the select tag, uh, if you want to create a drop down on your website so that a user can choose a particular single option from multiple available options, like on the institute website you may have chosen the in which course you want to enroll or in which branch you want to enroll. All of those drop downs are created with the select tag. Okay, so to create a particular selection drop down to take a user input, which is very first page of taking user input via a website, you can use select tag, and with the select tag you can create a drop down with the multiple options, with a single option, multiple option, whatever you want. Okay, once you created a select container, it is gonna create a empty drop down on your screen with no option in it. Okay, but once, if you want to pass the options, you have to pass the option tag between these select tag. Okay, so like you have created ul, and inside that ul you passed li, or you have created the ol, or and inside that ol you pass the li. Same way, you have to create a select tag as a container to create a drop down structure, and then you have to pass the option tag to create the options inside that particular select tag. Okay, so this option tag has a particular attribute which is very important and very powerful attribute known as the value attribute. Well, if you create anything, if you write anything between those option tags, that is gonna render on the screen and that is visible to the user. Okay, and once a user click on that particular select tag, he's gonna see all the options with the name that you written between the opening and closing option tag section. Okay, but if a user chooses a particular option, and let's say you used this particular select tag inside a form, and user chooses a particular option and he hit the submit button, so what it will do, the form actually will not consider this written data or this selected data. What it will do, it will capture this option tag and it will try to fetch the data written inside the value. Whatever you will write in the value, that data is gonna submit it to the backend server. Okay, so anything written between the option tag is for user visuals, but anything which is written inside the value attribute of that particular option tag is for the database and is for backend server. So whatever data your form will submit, it will only focus on the value attribute. So if you want to submit the apple, once the user clicks on this apple option, you have to write the apple again. If you want to submit a small letter apple, you will write it in the small letter. If you want to submit the capital letter apple, you have to write it into the capital letter here. Okay, so this is how your select tag work, and this is how you can create a drop down on the select tag. Notice here my by default selected item is fruit because fruit is on the top, but if you don't want to make your select tags options by default selected, you can pass an empty option here inside as the first option of your select tag. Okay, so here by default it will be none, no item will be selected, it will be empty, and then user can clicks on it and he can choose anything from the available options, and he can choose any options he wants or you wants, you can choose anything. Okay, so this is how the select tag works. Now like select tag, we have another tag to take a user input. In this condition, notice that actually you have the facility to take user input, but there is a condition: user can only choose from the option which is already available on the screen. Okay, so he cannot write any new option, or he cannot actually give his particular feedback or give his particular opinion. Okay, so if you want to create a functionality by which a user can actually type any data, any content, like you want to take the username, if you want to take the mobile number, email id, or if you allow the user to submit any other data which is not actually common, so you have to create a functionality by which a user can actually type on the website portal you have provided. Okay, so to do that, actually you have to use a few tags which is available in the HTML. Very first tag is text area tag, and after that we have input tag. Okay, so we will discuss all these tags. Well, if you want to create a multi-line input option, you have to create a text area tag, because text area is multi-line content. But if you want to create a single line input option, then you will go for the input tag. Or if you want to create, if you want to take a small user input like the first name, last name, and email id, then it is better to use single line input boxes like input tag. Then you will use input tag. But if you want to take any message from a user, or if you want to allow a particular user to write feedback or anything like this, then you will go for the text area tag. Okay, so we have a text, we have a input tag, or we have a text area tag actually. And this particular text area tag actually have two more important attributes, and one is calls and one is rows. What it will do, actually you have used image already, and in that particular image tag you have used width and height option. Okay, so if you actually use width and height option, what was that particular attribute doing at that point? It was controlling the width and the height of a particular image rendering on the screen. Okay, so in the same way, this calls and this rows will control the width and the height covered by this particular text area tag. So let's see what effect it is creating on the screen. Actually, you can see that in this condition there is a comment box added to the screen, and now your user can click into that comment box and he can write whatever you want. He can write alphabet, number, or special case character, or whatever you want. Actually, he can write anything. But this box has a predefined height and width value. Where it is coming from? It is coming from the rows and columns. Okay, so if I if I double the calls value, and if I check what effect it is creating, it is actually doubling the width of the text area box. Okay, same way, if I change the rows value, it will change the height of the text area box. Okay, and if you notice, there is a small pinpoint, and if you hover your cursor on that particular pinpoint, you will find a draggable cursor option, and if you click on that particular option, you can by click and drag and resize your text area box or message box. Okay, so this is a very advanced, and this is a very cool option to take the user input. But if you will use it only if the input that user gonna provide is multi-line, or if the input is bigger. Okay, so in that conditions only you are gonna use this actually text area input boxes. Okay, so till this point we learned the marquee tag, and we learned how we can create a particular sliding or scrolling content on our screen. And then we jumped into the user input section, and we learned very basic drop down concept to take the user input from the user, and we learned how we can create a message box or comment box or text box on our website. Okay, by using text area attribute. Notice this text area attribute is also this text area tag is also opening and closing tag, and but you do not have to write anything between those tags. Okay, so because actually if you write anything, it will be rendered inside the text area box by default. Okay, so this is not the good way. You are not going to write anything. Your user will write into this particular section, and whatever he write, you can capture that using JavaScript or any programming method. Okay, so it was all about this lecture, and in the next coming lecture we will discuss more about the user input via input tag, and there is a plenty of input tags available, and you can use them all, like date input tag and color input tag and range input tag and email input tag, etc, etc. And then we will move towards the form, and then we will actually move toward the feature content or features tag of the HTML, and that will be the wrap up of our class. Okay, and after that we will move towards the CSS and JavaScript portion. Okay, so this is all for now. See you in the next lecture.